there is a lot of things that targeted individuals have to think about. There are a lot of things they have to decipher, and the menagerie of mystery that is in front of you is not easy to decipher, and a lot of times, we have to speculate about things, and that's okay. I think the biggest thing that, that I'm trying to do is to help people out that are new targeted individuals, and for two reasons, okay? There's always, for me anyway, I don't know, looking back, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've learned the hard way. I've been accused of being a gang-stalking know-it-all, but nothing could be further from the truth. It's been painful. The people involved in this have had a lot of laughs at my expense. They've entertained themselves, and that's one of the reasons, why I make these videos. First, to help out new targeted individuals, and second, I want to ruin their fun. If that's, the only way that I can, legally and, reasonably, vent or whatever you want to call it, or do something productive, then I'm going to do that. I am. Because there's a lot of games involved in gang stalking. The amount of gaslighting that the targeted individual has to deal with is ridiculous. It's just one big nightmare. It is. And if nothing else, if all I'm doing is distracting you for a little while with this video from your nightmare, and giving you a little bit of affirmation, well, that's good enough. A lot of this stuff out there, that's all you get. But I'm going to try to make it a little bit more informative than that. I'm going to try and make a difference. I am. Okay, because I've talked to a few people, and I've mentioned before that it's really hard to deal with someone who's been attacked this way. Okay, because they're very paranoid, and I understand that personally. And people have been sensitized, and they don't know who's after them. They don't know who they can trust. That's kind of the whole object, of this menagerie that you're dealing with, is to make you paranoid, to get you, flinching at whatever happens, anticipating bad things, and, tearing you down mentally, spiritually, and physically. That's what gang stalking does. And not everybody's in the same scenario. You'll see people making videos, and, they're in a different place altogether. They're, I don't know, maybe in a park or something. I was watching one video where, this guy he was just, driven to the point where he was so stressed out he wanted to be by himself. And he goes to, it was like a local park or whatever, and here comes the guy in the lawnmower, right? No peace for the targeted individual. And a lot of times it's like that. In the video, the guy was reading into the whole thing, thinking that the guy knew. Of course, he was just doing his job, right? He was just out there. He would have been out there whether that guy was there or not. But it seems like it. It seems... for the targeted individual that they are dealing with. See, there's something interesting right there. That was my phone, obviously, my notification. Is that stalking? No. But anyway, that was a good example. I'm going to leave that in the video. But it seems like it because, in my opinion, the whole thing is set up that way. And it's not set up that way always by the people involved. Right? When you see, for example, somebody making a video about first responders or cops or whatever, or they're trying to get evidence, with their little body cam, and just trying to figure out what the hell they're talking about. Well, it's not that they haven't experienced things. It's not that they're not being, tormented or whatever. It's just, it's more of an orchestrated scenario. Okay, they're being led into a place where their peace is being taken away. They're being, tortured literally. People are betraying them. They are attacking them. And there's also the invisible realm. There's also that spiritual aspect to this scenario. Okay, there's that narrative. I told you we're going to talk about that mental narrative. And it's, sometimes I think that people will confuse, voice to skull technology from something that's literally demonic. But, after saying that, it would be hypocritical of me to say that it's one or the other, because I just admitted that it'd be hard to tell. But I think it is sometimes. I don't know. What does it really matter? I guess probably not. Either way, you're going to have to deal with it, right? But on the other hand, there are things that mimic your thoughts. There's a mental narrative. And it's just, things can pop into your head, or you can start thinking about something suddenly or whatever, or you'll be thinking about things that have been put there and are, basically set off by triggers, whether it's, maybe a smell or a song or a word or a particular type of circumstance or stimuli or whatever. And then it just kind of has a life of its own. And I think a lot of the stuff that target individuals is like that. It's mechanized. It's orchestrated. For example, if you, had, whatever scenario you want to pick that you don't want to think about happen in your past, there's something that's going to remind you of that, whatever it is. Sometimes the stuff that target individuals, though, it just pops into their head. It doesn't seem like it's triggered by anything. At least it's logical. If, I was watching a video, here's kind of an interesting story. And I think it was on Glenn Beck, where this guy had, a real difficult time, trying to come to grips with how he got to where he was. He wanted to be a professional baseball player, and he literally got ran over like 3 times by people in motor vehicles. Okay, so the first time, and he was, his professional career was basically ruined because, of all these motor vehicles running over him. So the first time it happened, he's in a parking lot. And I think that he was a targeted individual personally. Okay, that's kind of why I'm bringing this up. So he's I think it was a McDonald's or something like that. And he's walking into the store, right? And they got sometimes in parking lots, they got those big, I don't know what they are. They're like little blockades to keep people from driving into the building or whatever. And he's walking, in between that, and there's a lady in a vehicle. And he hears the engine rev up, and he looks over, and this is his testimony. The lady had a freaky look, a big weird smile on her face, and she just hit the gas and smashed him up against this thing, man. Right in the parking lot. And, it messed him up, He had to go to the hospital. I don't remember all the details, but it was bad. And he was like, every time I smell, fast food or French fries, I go into this horrible, flashback, and I have a huge panic attack. And he was talking about that. And then he was out practicing after he healed up and everything. He was out practicing. I don't remember I think there was a second time, but the third time, the final time, and this is interesting, he was out, he survived the first 2 motor vehicle attacks. Okay, and I think Targeted Mike has talked about this too, and I think his channel is called The Office of Targeting. And anyway, so he's out practicing on the baseball field. It was a professional field. I don't remember where it was. And all of a sudden, this vehicle busts through the gate and starts driving towards him, right where he is, where he's practicing, out on the field. And it's like this old, big old Oldsmobile or something like that, man. And it's just, big block engine, and it's just floored. And this person, I guess it was some lady, is just, whipping around and just, coming at him. And he's like, what the hell? And this lady runs over him. And come to find out, it was some mentally ill, lady that, she got away with the whole thing because she was declared mentally ill. And I think she spent like 2 weeks in a hospital, and they adjusted her medicine, whatever. But his career was over at that point. And he's trying to come to grips with all this stuff, and after having all these things happen, there's so many things that trigger him. Like I said, the smell of French fries or whatever, and he goes into this flashback, and now he's faced to deal with basically his broken existence, and it's kind of a reciprocal situation. I think targeted individuals have to deal with that because it's like that. It's exactly like that. Okay, there's all these things that have led you up to this point. And if it wasn't for those things, who knows what would have happened? And of course, there's that mental narrative, right? You can look at it however you want, but I think it's spiritual. And they're going to remind you of those things. Things are going to pop into your head. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. This, that, and the other. If it wasn't for that, you could have had, it's something that you have to deal with. And even if you're not at the end of that, even if you're not, like that gentleman I talked about where, he's, had to put his, career hopes and everything behind him, or me, a veteran targeted individual who's, coming near, the end of my life. Who knows how far I'm going to make it. Yesterday, I had to deal with some pretty weird stuff. I don't know if I should even talk about that. But, you could be in that beginning stage. You could be in the middle stage. You could be, at the end. But there's things that, could have been changed along the way. And, now that I brought that up, I guess it's kind of a funny story, and like I said, if all I'm doing is entertaining you and distracting you from your nightmare, well, it works. But this, I think it's relevant. And targeted individuals talk about, paranoia and poisoning and covert drugging and stuff, and I don't know what the hell's going on. But this started, it was a few days ago. I don't know if I got exposed to something and, or somebody did something. Because when you're a targeted individual, you don't know. That's what the other problem is. You have to, to figure out whether you're being paranoid or not. Do you have a legitimate health problem when something's happening? Or does somebody do something to you? That's one of the big things that I've had to deal with. And you can't ever jump to any conclusions. You can't. But anyway, I started feeling, like I got, slipped something. Something happened. And it wasn't like I was getting high on a drug or anything. I'm not really going to go into the details of it. But it was pretty persistent, and it was affecting my health to the point where my heart was starting to beat really rapidly, erratically. I was having a hard time breathing. It was pretty serious. And I was pretty sure that it wasn't a heart attack or a blood clot or something. And like I said, you got to be careful when you go to the hospital. Last time I went, it was in 2021, and it was when I had to move out of that house I was living in, and I moved to the apartment complex, which was a lot worse. That was a nightmare. It only took 2 weeks before, that stuff was just ridiculous. And then I had a lease agreement to deal with and everything. But anyway, I had to, ask a nurse, because I had shin splints and I overworked my legs. Like I've told you guys before, I'm crippled. But anyway, I started feeling woozy. I wasn't sleeping. My heart was beating really fast. And, I mentioned that to her, but I was wondering when my legs were going to heal. And she said, well, shin splints could take a long time, but it sounds like you got a blood clot. You better go to the hospital. And I'm like, nah. And I had been taking time off, so I was spending more time in the house. And that's when I started feeling the heart, racing, and the woozy feeling and all those other symptoms, the wonderful stuff. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know. So I did. I went up to the hospital, and they're like, yeah, your pulse is over the top, man. I don't know what's wrong with you. You've been sleeping, huh? And I said, yeah, I don't know. I said, well, that doesn't sound like symptoms of blood clot. And after the whole thing was over, they offered me muscle relaxers and didn't even do any tests. And of course, whatever. I'm not going to waste my time. Then you got to answer letters from Medicaid and everything. And I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to go get this antidote that I know about at the pharmacy. And I'm not going to say what it is, but so I go looking for it, and I go to the first place, it's gone. I go to the second place, and this lady comes up, and she's, well, are you looking for something? I'm like, yeah. And I told her what it was, and they always have it. She said, "Oh, well, I haven't seen that stuff for years." "Oh, no, they took all that off the shelf." And I'm like, "What?" I said, "That's not possible." "Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that stuff for 5 years at least." And I started getting the drift, because she was being totally sarcastic, and she started acting very erratic, you know. And it was classic. And it is what it is. And it was just one of those weird things. But, and I've talked about before that with targeted individuals, when it rains, it pours. I ended up going to another pharmacy, and it was there. I found it right away. But I don't know if you want to call that street theater or not. It was obviously sarcastic at the very least. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if you guys remember one of my videos I mentioned in a grocery store. A gal came out and was walking around in circles with one of those small shopping carts and being really weird one night when the store was just about to close and no one was around right in the self-checkout, and laughing at me and acting really weird. And I thought, what the hell? But you know what's interesting now, guys? And this just started, and it was about a year before that she did it. I have to use one of those things in my house just to straighten out my leg in the morning. How weird is that? I forgot to mention that in my videos. I just thought about that a while ago. I was like, I don't know if that's a coincidence or one of those targeted individual things. I mean, I don't know. Because it didn't make sense that she was doing that. And I always thought, well, she's just trying to get my attention. But this gal that I was dealing with at the pharmacy was obvious. And, even before I was done talking to her, she just, just laughs and walks away really fast. The erratic, freaky looking, behavior. Targeted individuals deal with it. But I could tell, probably about, right around the time that I started feeling that way, that something was coming anyway, right? Right after I started feeling strange, I got this little scenario with the electric company. Okay, my highest bill has only been since I moved into this place, because I've had to move several times. Of course, you guys know that if you watch the videos. It's only been like $48, and all of a sudden I get a bill for $300 for the last month. Right, I was current with all my bills, and then all of a sudden I get a $300 electric bill, and I'm like, oh, there's got to be a mistake. And they came over in the beginning of March and put in. They told me they put in a smart meter for the electrical meter, whatever. I looked into those, and I guess those are supposed to be bad for you with radiation or whatever. And then there's all that disinformation. I was like, whatever, we'll just. And then some people said their bills were triple, and so I was kind of nervous anyway. And then when I got the bill, I was like, you gotta be kidding me, $300. I just paid taxes, I had vehicle repairs, I had all this stuff, and I had to do my brakes again, man. And so I'm like, what the hell? Maybe it'll be simple to clear it up, because that's ridiculous, right? From $48 all of a sudden to $300, obviously something's going on. So I call up the customer service, and I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. Oh, I see. Oh, that is a little strange, And then if you guys have ever had this experience, and I have several times, okay, nothing is plain. You can't explain it in simple English. It's always got to be this weird labyrinthian, backwards, as if you were reading a contract explanation. Okay, because I could tell you what happened within probably less than 30 seconds, and it would make perfect sound, logical sense, and it would be real easy to clear up. But this lady takes me into this labyrinthian tale of, we had to adjust, and we estimated bills, and I said, well, wait a minute, I don't use electricity like anybody else. My bills have to be a lot lower. I've turned off the furnace and all this and everything, and well, I'm okay, but that's how we do it. And so you billed me on an estimate that was from a prior tenant. I said, "Are you serious?" Well, that's how things can be done, and everybody's case is different. I suppose you could go through and look at the math on it, and from the month of January and February, we had to adjust. The meter wasn't sending out signals, and so we didn't have anybody to come on the ground until March 4th. And we realized that something was wrong, and so we, had to do this. So you used estimates, 12 months. Yes, we used a 12-month estimate, and that would involve the prior tenant to figure out what you owed us. And I'm like, wait a minute. So okay, so I was current with my bills, and you said, so this is from January to February? How did I get 300? I said, you only billed me for 300 watt hours for this month. How many watt hours for this? And so this went on, and then finally I couldn't deal with it, so I went down. I went down to the actual, the company, and I went in and talked to them, and it was even worse. And so they're printing out all this stuff and handing me these things and, just going over this whole thing. And finally, after 40 minutes, because it didn't make any sense, I said, okay, because I said, okay, I think we're on the same page. So let me see here. So you're saying that in the month of January and February, with the amount of bills that I paid, the extra amount came up to $300? Well, actually, it would have been 250. Well, but you couldn't, you couldn't even, pigeonhole these people into a binary question. And finally, when the whole thing ended up, and they were, laughing, and they were kind of looking at each other and everything, and I knew something, but you know what? I can play. And so, here's what it came down to, and all they had to say was this. Okay, the meter wasn't working, evidently, and so they had an actual reading when I moved in, and I just made this up because it had to be logical. I mean, after going over this thing for 40 minutes and 20 minutes on the phone, I had to take care of it. So you had an actual reading when I moved in, and then you did an actual reading in March, realized you screwed up the bill, and then you took off the amount that I paid, added on the watt hour difference, and it came out to $300 for a time period of 6 months. That makes sense. Okay, that's a bill. But they didn't say that. They said it was, from January to February, and then, of course, went back and estimated in the prior tenant, and that had nothing to do with it. So some of this stuff is games. I'm just saying, man, that, and if you're a targeted individual, that when it rains, it pours, and it's always, you can always tell. And that's another thing that, when you start to get that, you have to kind of brace yourself, because a lot of it is to stir up a negative attitude to kind of get you going, and then, to kind of provoke you or whatever. And a lot of times it will start with that mental narrative. And, getting back to the whole issue, it's like a toxic soup that you're put in, right? Whether you're dealing with, being paranoid that you've been covertly poisoned or drugged, or that mental narrative that starts to come on before you get into that scenario, or people being sarcastic, or your house getting broken into, or a street theater, or people breaking into your, vehicle, like I said before in that video. I don't remember, it was a few videos ago, somebody had broken into my vehicle and put a stick across my steering wheel. I mean, you could tell that all these things are being orchestrated. And that mental narrative is a very important part of this, because I've talked about before that targeted individuals have no sympathy, because a lot of the things that they're dealing with are invisible to other people. Not only are people blind, a lot of people that are involved, that at least witness what is going on in the targeted individual's life, they don't know that this stuff is going on. They don't know about the other stuff, okay? And that gets into, the handler issue. And I think a lot of that it's spiritual, okay? You've got people that you got to deal with in the natural, and I think there are people that are paid to harass, targeted individuals. Maybe it's a government thing, maybe it's something else, maybe it's a group of people. And I've heard of that too. There was supposedly it's like a gang of people that's like a club or something where people just get together and they find people to just do this to, just to ruin their life, play God with. You know, a bunch of rich people that just get together and that's how they have fun. And I told everybody to watch that movie Surviving the Game with Ice-T and Rutger Hauer. It's kind of like that. That's a group of people that they just find somebody to take out and hunt them down in the middle of the middle of the country somewhere, out in the middle of nowhere. And but whatever it is, the only advice at the end of the day, guys, the only advice I can tell you to follow, because there's really no controlling other people. I can't tell you how to stop it. I can't tell you how to solve this issue. The only thing I can tell you to do is what I do, and that's to follow protocol. If you're sitting around trying to figure out why these people are doing what they're doing, who cares? It's evil. They're the ones that are crazy, in my opinion. Okay? Or trying to figure out what's going on in the spiritual dimension. Why is God allowing it? Well, he knows. Just, let him be God, right? And rather than to try and figure out what's happening, what's going to happen next, why it's happening, I just keep doing what I, normally do. I try not to think about it. And, if I can't live, then I guess I'm going to have to die. And, by the way, if all of a sudden my videos stop, that means I'm dead. I mean, sometimes that happens. Targeted individuals, sometimes they don't make it, man. Sometimes they get you. And sometimes God allows that. John the Baptist, he didn't make it out of prison. There's several examples. But anyway, that sounds kind of morbid. I don't want to go there, but it's true. You can't sit around and worry about everything. You can only do what you can do. You try to live a peaceable life. You try to work. You try to make an honest living. If you can't do that, then, there's nothing you can do. And if you got to deal with some stuff, set some protocols up and, put a security system in and try to make it as easy and as, simple as possible. That's really all you can do. And know that, these people are going to get judged. They're going to get caught. Eventually this is going to, it's going to get taken care of, guys. It will. And it's really that simple for me. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, because people are going to do what they're going to do. This is obviously designed to drive people crazy, to ruin their life, to harass them, to torture them. And, if that isn't obvious enough of a reason for doing it, then, I guess you can knock yourself out and try to figure it out. But I just keep it simple. The other thing is, I think it's just to bring you down to their level, That's the way I look at it. They want you to be just like them, either to conform or, bloodshed. And that gets back into the spiritual realm. How do you think wars start? Well, of course, there's an equation for everything, man. Targeted individuals are looking at an equation, right? To get you paranoid, there's things that have to be done. People have to attack you. You have to become apprehensive. In order to become bitter and frustrated, you have to, get harassed, right? In order to become hopeless, it has to go on for a long time. Everything has an equation. In order for you to get to the point where Myron May, is and went out and there was bloodshed, there's an equation to get up to that point. It's not rocket science. One domino hits another domino, right? It's all a chain reaction. And your job is to stop it. That's my job. Okay? You have to be that domino that just doesn't push the next one over. That's the only thing you can do. I've been doing it for almost 30 years. And even though I want to help as many people as possible, I don't have any delusions about, stopping this. This is bigger than me. It's bigger than a group of people. You can see it, throughout the whole world. And, targeted individuals are subjected to the worst part of the manipulation that's going on this planet, but everybody's being manipulated. They are. When you see a war in a foreign country or whatever you're looking at, you are looking at people being manipulated. They are. They're getting an idea in their mind, and it's not by accident, guys. I want you to remember that. And that gets to the mental narrative that we've been talking about. How do you think it is that people have? And look at a map of all the religions. I've talked about this before. It's not by accident. I believe that this world was divided up according to principalities and powers. And when you look at those, religions, you are looking at delusions. You are looking at things that have been sown into people's minds, and now they are ideologically possessed, and they go to war over that stuff. Okay, when you look at the Qibla in Mecca and the mosque up on the Temple Mount, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the other one up on that's on the wing, and the other one right up on the Temple Mount. Who knows? Maybe it's the abomination of desolation. I mean, you are looking at spiritual forces. You are looking at people being manipulated. You're looking at bloodshed. You're looking at all kinds of things, and it's no joke. So when you're dealing with all these things, when you're dealing with thoughts popping into your mind, when you're dealing with people attacking you, being sarcastic, different scenarios, workplace harassment, things that just seem to be orchestrated and synchronized. It's not by accident. Okay? It's not. And I would suggest that you pray for God's help and his strength, because this whole thing is way bigger than any of us. Guys, be good to yourselves. Be safe.